So we absolutely have to go ahead and touch on Tesla stock as there's a couple of upcoming events that could significantly influence the price action of Tesla stock going forward. And I want to go ahead and touch on what are some things that we want to be mindful of from a macro perspective, a fundamental perspective, and a technical perspective as well. Now, I haven't done an update on Tesla pretty much since August 17th when I made this video highlighting Tesla stock warning. And if you watched that video, I talked about how in the short term there was going to be some selling pressure with Tesla. I said in the long term things looked okay. And you guys see this little kind of spreadsheet I talked about with the fundamentals. But if we take a look, August 17th was on the weekend, so the next day was August pretty much 20th over here. And what we see is from the high of August 20th to the low over here, Tesla stock did in fact fall down, like I mentioned, pretty much falling down 12%. So, that warning there was just kind of hinting that, hey, things will likely fall down with Tesla. But here we are today with Tesla stock starting to curl up, and I want to go ahead and provide a new update as there's a couple of things we want to be mindful of. Now, of course, I want to go ahead and touch on things from a fundamental perspective, a technical perspective, and a macroeconomic perspective, as I like to use several different data points in confluence, as well as just the overall sentiment, right? And so I want to go ahead and talk about a couple of things, starting with the fundamentals, right? So one aspect that we want to look at, or I want to highlight, is the price to earning ratio, the PE ratio. And one thing that we do see over here is that Tesla has a high PE ratio of 55.2, which is significantly above its peers in the tech space, which has an average of 37.6. And so this high PE ratio could suggest one of two things. It could either suggest that market participants are willing to pay this high premium for Tesla's stock because they believe that there's a strong confidence for future growth. But there's also nuance with PE ratios, right? That's kind of one thing that takes place when you're looking at the fundamentals. And when you're looking at PE ratios, that could also just mean that it's overvalued, right? It's overpriced. And so that's something I wanted to go ahead and touch on because really the only other company with this high PE ratio when you're looking at Tesla's peers in the tech space is Nvidia. Now, Nvidia is at roughly the same amount, 55.2, in terms of its PE ratio. And, Nvidia is something that we talked about in the last few videos. It recently just had its earnings, which beat expectations, but ultimately it wasn't a big blowout beat, which is why we saw some selling pressure with Nvidia. But nonetheless, it was a small blip down the road. I think it's an overreaction. But the point is that with Nvidia, we know that the earnings are there. And so it's not crazy to go ahead and pay these high premiums. But with Tesla, it's a little bit iffy, right? And so that's something I wanted to go ahead and touch on, right? Because I want to go ahead and highlight, well, are we paying those high premiums for, Tesla stock? Or is it, something that's actually justified, right? And so, there's a couple of things we want to go ahead and highlight. One thing that I do want to touch on from a technical perspective is that we are slightly below the shelf of volume relative to price, where that could potentially act as a resistance. And one of the reasons we know is because we see over here this was a support, old support can become new resistance. And we know that when there's a lot of volume relative to price, there's that exchanging between buyers and sellers. And so that could cause the price to kind of have like a sideways action and cause that resistance where people are unsure of whether the stock price should go up higher. Now, if we go around over here above 230, well, that's where there's little volume relative to price. We have this volume pocket, and that's where we could see, the price action go up even higher. We saw that in the past over here with these big candlesticks. Then we tried to attempt again, but ultimately, we had some bad news with Tesla, which caused it to fall down, as well as just the overall market. And so we may be attempting to reach towards that level once again. And we do have a few events, right? We have the robo-taxi event, which was delayed now to October 10th. And we're entering into the month of September, which historically is a very volatile month. But this is a very unique September in the sense that we are likely to get those rate cuts, which is a benefit for Tesla, right? Because Tesla is a company that's very sensitive to interest rates, because even with good credit, I just checked last night, my credit score is 833, and I checked what is the rate that you would get to finance a vehicle with an 833 credit score, and it's 6%, and that's still pretty high. So imagine all the other individuals with credit scores that are in the 600s, 700s. you're gonna have a interest rate of like 8 to 12% just to finance a vehicle. And so, most people who purchase vehicles, they don't buy it cash, they finance it. And so, again, it's a very challenging time for people to finance new vehicles. Now, Tesla has tried to battle this with offering a lot of incentives, but that's been kind of hurting Tesla as well. Now, we are kind of shifting in the macro cycle where we're going to get those rate cuts likely to take place, and the market's actually pretty bullish about this. Although if we take a look at the S&P 500, it is kind of in this this range where it's consolidating. However, it's at the top end, and we see that we're kind of close to the peaks that we saw back in July. So, we may see some optimism this September, which could be very good, and that could help drive Tesla stock as well as the overall market start to push up. And so that's something that we'll continue to watch, especially seeing what goes on with monetary policy. But I also wanted to touch on a couple of things as well, right? First of all, from just a sentiment perspective, we did get the update that Elon Musk and Tesla won the dismissal of a federal lawsuit accusing them of defrauding investors by hyping the cryptocurrency Dogecoin and conducting insider trading, causing billions of dollars of losses. And so a little bit of a win from, the legal battles that Tesla is battling, but I don't think this is something significant, especially since we're likely to see a lot more lawsuits take place with Tesla. And I say this because it seems like Elon has kind of put himself in this focal point of being attacked by many, many individuals. For example, just the other day, we had Brazil make this order nationwide to suspend Elon Musk's X, right? Because we've heard Elon Musk be very vocal about freedom of speech on X and not censoring content. And he's been getting a lot of backlash from a lot of leaders about this. And we know that we're heading into an election year. And so this is going to cause the sentiment to kind of be a bit iffy. And that does impact the price action of Tesla. We know the reason why I say this is because I've done it in the past where we looked into who holds the most amount of shares for Tesla. Is it institutions or retail investors? And interestingly enough, while a lot of the other tech leaders like Microsoft, Apple, most of their positions are held by hedge funds and large institutional, companies, Tesla's actually held by a lot of retail. And so a lot of the sentiment can change what ends up taking place with the price action with Tesla. And so being that Tesla is held primarily by retail investors, what Elon Musk can say says could possibly sway what people do with their positions. And I've done a poll actually on X, and I've seen other people do polls as well, saying, is Elon Musk's approach or what he's saying on X influencing what you do with your Tesla stock? And interestingly enough, a lot of individuals say yes, and they're selling their shares of Tesla based on what Elon Musk's policies are. Now, I'm not here to say I agree with them or disagree with them, right? I just say that I don't have let me rephrase this. What Elon Musk says isn't really changing my perspective on what I'm doing with Tesla stock in my long-term portfolio, but that's just me, right? And I'm not swayed away from buying a Tesla just because of what Elon Musk has said, but I've seen it in the comment section below. You guys have said it before that you guys will sell your shares of Tesla and not buy, a Tesla vehicle just because of what Elon Musk says. And so we have to understand a lot of people feel that way, right? Now, again, I don't personally feel that way, but that doesn't mean, that many others don't. And it looks like a lot of people do. And so being that we have this election year coming up, Elon Musk has been very vocal. That's driving the sentiment to kind of be a little volatile for Tesla. And that's not good, right? We could see that's definitely not good, especially people are no longer wanting to buy the vehicles just because of what Elon Musk is saying. And so that's something you want to be mindful of, right? And I know, a lot of large institutions, they may not take that into account, looking into the actual sentiment, right? You have to look into the sentiment of a stock as well to understand what's going on. And when you have a stock that's primarily held by retail, and retail is, very sensitive, and maybe a hedge fund is only looking at the fundamentals, but a retail investor, they're going to listen to whatever they see online. And if they feel some type of way with Elon, they may sell their position. A hedge fund may not do that, right? They may not do that, but retail investors will. And so that's something we want to, take a look into. But something else that's pretty interesting is Mercedes-Benz recently got granted approval to test its L4, which is the level 4 autonomy, in China. Now, this is a bit concerning, right? And I know from one perspective, from just an advancement of technology, this is great. But from the perspective of how this influences Tesla, it's not so good because a lot of Tesla bulls still mistakenly believe that Tesla will be the only automaker able to offer unsupervised level 4 autonomy. And of course, Tesla's clearly in the lead with Go Anywhere scalable FSD solution, but the market is fragmenting into standard and premium, pretty much advanced driving assistant systems. And every automaker, they're spending billions to solve this. And so, yes, Tesla is in the lead, but the question is, how long will they be in the lead, especially if a lot of other companies are catching up. Now, granted, a lot of these companies are using LiDAR radars on the car. Tesla, they're doing something that's very unique and different, and that's something that's pretty exciting. But the truth is, we have a lot of other companies catching up, although they're using different approaches. We may see a future where Tesla may not be the only company that offers FSD, and that's one of the things that has been a big driver for what Elon Musk has said is the value for Tesla, and that's a bit concerning. Now, in the short term, we do have a lot of data coming out. We have the job openings, the JOLTS report, the Federal Reserve's Beige Book, auto sales. We also have ADP, which is a private sector job numbers, ISM services. I mean, this is a flooded week. Yes, it is a short week, being that it's Labor Day, so Monday is obviously a day where the market's going to be closed. But we have unemployment coming out. It's a long week let me say this again. It's a short week with a lot of data coming out, and so we absolutely want to be mindful of this. And so that's something I wanted to go ahead and highlight, as there's a lot of factors that could shape the directional move for Tesla. On top of that, real quick, just wanted to plug in, we do have our Labor Day special. So if you're interested in getting my daily briefings where I talk about Tesla stock and what are some things I'm looking for with the broader markets and some trade ideas, you can now join just for this month for $6, or I'm sorry, not for this month, but for this weekend, for Labor Day, where this month you could just pay $6 to join the Push and Profit private group. So quick plug, if you want to get access to my daily briefings, definitely take advantage of this. I mean, $6 is nothing compared to the value that you get with these daily briefings. But really, the update that I wanted to share is that we are in an area where we may see some resistance and some consolidation with Tesla, and there's going to be ultimately a lot of volatility as we head into this election season, but I'm still bullish for Tesla long term, and I believe that 2025 is going to be a great year for Tesla, much like what we saw back in 2023. If you guys remember 2023, I mean, that was a good year. Let's go ahead and go to a weekly time frame. Let's take a look. 2023 was a great year for Tesla. And then, of course, towards the end of it, it started falling down. 2024, it hasn't been that great. I believe 2025, we may see a repeat of 2023. But you guys let me know in the comment section down below. With that said, before you guys go, make sure to check out this next video over here. And don't forget to check out the Push and Profit private group with that sale. It's going to be linked in the description down below and in the comment section. And I'll see you guys on that next video right over here. Take care, guys.